I would like to welcome to the stage now Adelina-Liana Țînțariu, our next keynote speaker. She will tell us a little bit about the history of Romania.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. So thank you very much for the invitation, for speaking in front of you today. I will go back to a, let's say, very important subject for Romania, namely the memory of the people that actually hurt during the communist regime. I'm sorry because I have some papers here, just because I have a lot of emotions for speaking in front of such a large audience. So I stand before you here today just to tell you a little bit a journey, discuss the journey from oppression to freedom, from oppression to democracy. A journey that has shaped, of course, the destinies of our country, but also of so many countries in the past. The journey that I will speak today, it's about the installation of the communist regime in Romania so many years ago. Maybe some of you from this place don't know exactly what was the history of the communist regime in Romania. An era that was described by Arthur Koestler, a darkness at noon. I kindly invite you just for 30 seconds to imagine what was the darkness actually, what consists this metaphorical darkness. This is what happened actually in Romania for more than 45 years, a total era of darkness. So this is, I guess, the best summary of the communist era. A total blindness akin to the famous novel of José Saramago that was speaking about what is happening with actually everything is in the dark. However, this journey from darkness to light, I think, is also very important because it's not simple but nor painless. It is fraught with struggle, courage, and a very important sacrifice of people actually that oppose to the communist regime. It is important to remind us that is a spirit of the human, that is a battle of the human spirit that actually confronts the totalitarianism, the communist regimes. This is also what happened in Romania in those years of total darkness. So democracy as we cherish it today is not a given, and it never is. We should remind ourselves every day this thing. According to a 2023 opinion poll in Romania, still half of the population considers that the communist regime was a good thing. So we should be worried about that, worried about the fact that people today still consider that totalitarianism is a good thing. We as a society, we should actually educate people on what consists in totalitarianism and how we can actually react to that, because as we all know, ideologies, extremist ideologies and extremist leaders still continue to pose threatening things to our societies today. Our history is filled with lessons. Some of them are exclusively written in the blood and tears of those who dare to oppose to the communist regimes. These lessons are not confined in the past. We should also take them into account also in our present. As autocratic leaders and ideologies, extremist ideologies continue to pose threatening things to our societies. So we should consider Romania, a country that, like so many others European countries, endured more than 45 years of communism. This period of time, Romanians lived through fear, hunger, and violence. The communist regime and its quest for control did not just take the lives, but also sought to crush the aspiration of its people who longed for a better and freer world. But as we already know, the human spirit is very resilient. Despite the oppressive regime that was happening in Romania in those years, we have many examples of people that actually opposed to the communist regime. Heroes like Iuliu Maniu and Ion Mihalache are just some examples of the political leaders, democratic political leaders that went and declared their negative reaction to the communist regime. At the same time, we have exiled voices such as Monica Lovinescu and Virgile Runca, who actually kept the hope alive for so many Romanians during those years of cruel communist regime in Romania. Also, we have dissidents that opposed every day in Romania against the communist regimes, dissidents like Doina Cornea. According to Hannah Arendt, the nature of totalitarianism is the combination of essence of terror and the principle of logicality. So totalitarian terror is designed to translate into reality the law of movement, of history, of nature, through the mankind. Jerome Cohn, a connoisseur of Arendt work, notes that terror and logicality welded together equip totalitarian regimes with unprecedented power to dominate human beings. This is also what happened in Romania. It was a total domination of the human beings. But at the same time, the voices that opposed the communist regime were so much more important. This is why, in 1989, so many of the Romanians opposed the communist regime and actually went to the streets. One of the most important, let's say, examples of what happened with the communist regime in Romania is the former prison from Râmnicu Sărat. I had the image prepared for you with the place from Râmnicu Sărat, but you can imagine, like I told you at the beginning, it was a total darkness. This is what happened at Râmnicu Sărat. It was a place where political leaders were beaten, were starved, and did not have access to medical treatment. This is what the regime imposed actually against its opponents. One of the examples, let's say, of dealing with the past is actually my own example. Why I'm telling you that is because in 2013, I was among the youngsters, a very young team actually, that went on and gather information in order to prosecute those that were guilty for the atrocities for the communist prisons from Râmnicu Sărat. So during my tenure as an investigator for the communist crimes, actually I gather information, documents, in order to prosecute Alexandru Vișinescu, the commander from Râmnicu Sărat, from crimes against humanity. This was actually one of the most important examples of coming to terms with the past. It actually was one of the fewest examples in Romania for coming to terms with the past. Unfortunately, the transitional justice in Romania was nothing so like in other many countries, European countries, that actually accepted the past and went on and brought those guilty of crimes against humanity in front of justice. So in 2013, Alexandru Vișinescu, the commander of Râmnicu Sărat, at 89 years old, was sentenced to 20 years of prison. After 25 years from the fall of communism, it wasn't a thing that was making proud, actually, the leaders of the democratic world after 1989. But still, it was justice that was fulfilled, and the victims of the communist regime, especially from Râmnicu Sărat, had the opportunity to live. So this what was happening to Râmnicu Sărat. But Romanian communist regime meant so many prisons, so many issues, so many facts that were not investigated after 1980 now. It's still a problem that persists within our society. It is very important for us to take accountability also today when it comes to crimes committed by totalitarian regimes. So this is the most important, to say, lesson that we have to learn today as a democratic society, that we also should look at the past. Without understanding the past, of course, the present, but also very importantly, the future, becomes a problem for my generation, but for the generations to come. So, an important thing what happened in Romania was December 1989. So after years of atrocities that I have mentioned before, Romanians went on the streets, Romanians of all ages. So there were many youngsters just like you in the room, 20 years old, that went on the streets and asked for freedom. They opposed to the communist regime, to Nicolae Ceausescu, the dictator, that was actually controlling their lives at that moment. So it's important to remember that the communist regime fell actually with the help of youngsters. Unfortunately for us, this is also a bloody moment for Romanian history. A bloody chapter in our history, because neither today, after 35 years, we don't know who are the guilty ones that actually shot the people on the streets in 1989. So the need for democracy was so high in 1989, but the sacrifice for such a liberty obtained and a freedom obtained in 1989, in December 1989, was even more. Unfortunately for us, this is the situation. Democracy asked in Romania for such involvement from all levels of the society. Let's say that I have my own example when it comes to the implication in the fostering of democracy within our society. That's the example of my father. He was one of the youngsters that went on the streets in December 1989, asking for freedom, liberty, and dignity. Because the communist regime, actually, during those 45 years, meant total annihilation of the human spirit, like I told you at the beginning. But these people, like my father, had the courage to go on the streets, no matter what were the sacrifices, to ask for the liberties, to ask for the rights to be considered as a human being in front of any regime that would come. So this was one of the lessons that actually shaped my childhood. The lessons because I learned from my father the fact that no matter what is happening in a society, you should always be vigilant. Democracy is not a given. Democracy is something that you have to fight for every single day. You have to be very careful to what your leaders, political leaders, are saying. You have to be very careful to what is happening beside you and around you. So this is what actually is the main lessons for me as a youngster in the 1990s. The fact that democracy is not a given. You have to fight for that democracy, and you have to inspire also with lessons the others in order to understand that democracy is nothing earned, is nothing that you earn so easily. My father was a history professor, so I can tell you also that because it's an important factor in my childhood. A history professor that learned so many generations about the risks of communist totalitarianism, about the people that actually opposed to the communist regime. He did not glorify those people, but actually made them as an examples, for example, for the young generations to understand that those people did not abandon their values. So it was difficult. The communist regime meant total annihilation, but they opposed to the communist regime no matter what was the price. For some of them, unfortunately, the price was their life. We should remember that. So my father spent all his career teaching people about the significance of democracy, about how it's very important to be aware about what is happening within the society, to be active, to be involved, but at the same time to take advantage about the freedoms that you have at your disposal when you are making your decisions. His lesson continued to inspire me today, of course, because I think it's very important to be aware about what is happening within society and to understand that democracy is not only a governance system, it's more than that. It's a set of values, beliefs, and the fact that you have to be very much aware about what is happening with the world. You can see today that there are still challenges that come to our society, and challenges that make us be aware and to be alive when it comes to the fact that maybe our society at some point may be put in the situation to make a choice. We have to make the right choice every single time. The right choice means that we have to go and vote because we have that freedom to elect. We have the choice to say our opinion. People from the communist regime did not have that choice. We have the choice, actually, to write what we want to write. So all these things, what can at some point may be seen like very small things, they are very important for us as a society because these are the rights that were actually the rights that were conquered in December 1989. As I conclude my very small remark on the communist regime in Romania, I think it's important to remember those who marched the streets on December 1989. Those youngsters that I already told you that paid with their lives the price, the sacrifice for earning democracy for us all. Also, we should do not be scared to remember those names who whispered freedom in the shadow of oppression and who sacrificed so much for the simple, profound right to live in a world governed by fairness, not by fear. Because I think this is the most important lesson. These voices from our history not only guide us, but also remind us of the fragility of democracy. I think it's our duty as a generation, as a society, as people that love democracy today, like was also the case of my father, to go and to teach these lessons from our generations, but the generations to come. People whose lives remind us by the rights that they were won by courageous people, we should always remember them. It is very important to go back to what Monica Lovinescu was saying. The spirituality of any nation is founded on memory. So once we forget about what was happening in the past, about the totalitarian regimes, we should consider that this forgetfulness will mean that new leaders, maybe autocratic leaders, maybe populist leaders, maybe extremist leaders, will have the place, the room, to go forward with their plans. So we should never forget about what is happening in the past, about the threatenings that were the threatenings that were happening in the communist regime, but also before the communist regime and after the communist regime, because this is the most important lesson. We should be aware. We should be alive. We should be careful with what is happening in our society, and we should not take democracy for granted. Democracy is happening every single day. Thank you very much.